Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Man United Agenda. Yes, we are here to preview Manchester United versus Manchester City in the FA Cup final at Wembley. Welcome. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Man United Agenda. I'm Solo, and it's been such a long time, such a long time since I was last on this channel. But Mr. B had a few words with me the other day, and I found myself on tonight again. So it was either put up or shut up, or I'm putting up. As always,
the lads finally afford your appearance fee. Is that the issue?
I think it is. Yeah. Bonus bonds. It's bonus bonds. It's bonus bonds. Monday, sir, how you doing? You all right?
Yeah, delighted to be here. I mean, look, all week it's fight week, as they say in the boxing game. This is it. We're building up to this big fight tomorrow. We're doing the weigh-in today. We're going to weigh it up. Who's got what are the pros and cons for both teams. I'm looking forward to this. I've got a fight man in the house as well, and that's Phil. We're going to come on to him as well. And we got another fight man. It's the dog downstairs below me. It's Mr. B. Mr. B, I remind you, Raj and Mr. T. But Mr. B,
Mr. T.
the same guy, when we played our charity game recently, outstanding, ripped it up, and his wing play was fantastic. Scored a brilliant goal, which was just out of the blue. I was just in shock, in awe. So Mr. B's on the panel. He's a great baller at his age as well. What an engine! What an engine, people! And I won't stop boasting him up until every show I'm going to speak about that goal. Fantastic, Mr. B.
And as always, we've got our main man flying like a butterfly, stinging like a bee, knows about football, knows about boxing, is none other than Phil, sir. Welcome back. It's been a long time, sir. How are you doing?
My pleasure, lads. Absolute pleasure for having me on. Thank you. I'm not sure about knowing about football or boxing, but thanks for the intro anyway.
No, it's great having you back, Phil. It's been such a long time, sort of cross-pathing with each other, and sort of now we've finally got you on the channel tonight, and it's going to be a great occasion. And the reason why it's a great occasion is it's the first derby game, Manchester United versus Man City at Wembley.
Yeah.
And it's going to be what a spectacle. So what we're going to do, we're going to get your insight about it. How do you think the game's going to go? And then we're just going to have a Monday on Mr. B. And Mr. B might challenge on Monday on a couple of bits and pieces if he doesn't agree with it. But all in all, guys, we're here to have a fantastic show tonight. So, guys, if you're new to the channel, please hit that like, share, and make sure you're subscribing to the channel as well. And we are going to kickstart into what we want to discuss, really and truly, and that's to do with the derby game tomorrow. Phil, with this, Manchester United under Erik ten Hag has faced each other twice now in the league, 1-1 at the moment, but it's going to be a neutral ground. It's at Wembley, and it's especially Pep Guardiola, who's got quite a rich form of history, rich vein of form in sort of like at the Wembley Stadium, where he's won a few of the League Cup, few FA Cups as well. This is Erik ten Hag, sort of, as we would call it, the third outing. The first one we won against Newcastle. Then we played in the at Wembley as well to get to the final of the FA Cup, and we're going back now to play in the FA Cup. How do you see the game panning out to be, and can you see a Man United win here, or an upset?
Yeah, I mean, look, lads, I mean, I think the game would be similar to what the League Cup final was, in the sense that United surrounded possession in the League Cup final, the 38% possession, I think it was, against Newcastle. Simply because I think the team will look very similar. I think Weghorst will start down the middle, along with Rashford and Sancho out wide, because I don't think he has any other choice. I think there's been certain clues on how to beat City that teams have done, not many, but one of those, I remember Spurs beating City at the Etihad last season, and one of the tactics was making sure that the ball got up to Harry Kane very quickly, almost bypassed the midfield, because City are very smart with how they foul you in non-areas of the pitch, so that they don't get booked, they interrupt your counter-attack. Once they get set, they're very hard to break down. Remember, Ten Hag worked with Guardiola at Bayern Munich, so he knows him inside out. There's probably no optimal strategy that he could employ or guarantee victory, but I don't think Guardiola will surprise Ten Hag tomorrow. I also think it's a bit of a mistake for City to have not won any of their last 2 games. You know, I remember United losing the FA Cup final to Chelsea and doing exactly the same thing. Pre-FA Cup, resting players, they lost their last game of the season and then went and lost against Chelsea. I don't think that helps City. They are obviously the favourite. They should be the favourite. But it's certainly a game that United can win. There's tremendous incentive for both teams. United, of course, are the only team outside of City in England that have won a trophy. You know, United and Arsenal, the only 2 teams to finish above a sports washing project in the Premier League. That matters. I think when you look at it's a one-off game. You know, City have a tremendous incentive because they want to win the treble. To win the double against United would be incredible for them, but also for United players. Lads, they have big game players for the first time in a long time. United's form has been poor away, but this isn't an away game. You know, this is a neutral venue, and City's form hasn't been great away from home either. This is a neutral venue. So, you know, Casemiro's come up big for United to get away to Bournemouth, come up big for them at home to Chelsea. It's because he's a big game player. You need to have those players now in the team that can handle these occasions. And yes, it would be an upset if United win, but it wouldn't be a massive one.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Some great analogy there. On Monday, as what Phil says there, it's obviously it's neutral ground. Man City doesn't really play away from home. And also with it, they're on the sort of a course to get the treble. Now, is it a case of who would be under more pressure in this game?
Good question. First of all, I hope the fans get down there with all these damn train strikes and things. What a ridiculous day to do it, you know, and especially that route. It's crazy. So everyone will be driving down, and we live on the A40. We know we'll be looking out for these guys tomorrow in the coach. But anyway, let's say this. Who's under more pressure? I would say Pep's under more pressure because Pep hasn't won a Champions League since, 2011, I think it was. That's over 12 years for Pep Guardiola, the mastermind, tactician, everything else. And he is that guy. He is that great. It's going to be a battle of wits. I think like I was saying before, we've had 6-7 days on the training ground to work on something. Systems wins games, simple as that. And I think we've got a system that if we stick to, we've got a good opportunity. Phil hit the nail on the head when he mentioned the final the other day, the Europa League final, and how doesn't live up to expectations because everyone wants to win. And I think we need to beat City. You need to be compact. You need to be narrow. You need to prevent them from having space and prevent them from moving you around and rotating you and getting you out of position because that's what they do. That's how they play. So I think it might not be great on the eye, but it's all about the result at the end of the day. And I think if the manager's got a plan to keep it narrow, we deny them the space and hit them with transitions, something we're probably the best in Europe at, transition ball. If you look at the 2-1 we beat them with, transitions over and over again. So many times we're in on goal. It's just about finishing your dinner. We might be spoon feeding these guys, but we need to deliver. And no better stage to do it than the FA Cup final. It's memorable. We never forget these games. You know, I can remember them as a kid, and I'm sure people, watching the game tomorrow with the underdog value as well with the FA Cup. We are underdogs. Make no mistake about it. And I'll go back to when Michael Owen scored a brace against Arsenal, the great Arsenal side back in the day for Liverpool. It was the same. A set piece, scrambling the box, he scored in a goal. And then a lovely transition move against the great Arsenal side, 2-1. They beat them on the day. And it can happen. Can happen. You can go back to Sunderland and Leeds, 1-0. We just done a show and we all predicted, well, me and you all predicted a 1-0 win. The most important thing is we start the game 0-0. Okay? Let's make sure we deny them. Don't concede. Get to 60, 70 minutes. With players, professional players who are going to be compact and narrow, and then you've got the opportunity to bring on Sancho or bring on a Garnacho, and then you can be expansive then and maybe change the game. I reckon we can do it. I think it's possible. It's not impossible, and I hope the fans there, we outnumber them, and I hope the fans can be that 12th man and make it like a home game for us.
Mr. B, again, good point someone is making there as well. We're not far from Wembley. We're literally on the sort of, especially yourself, you're not that far away from it. But with the game now and the intensity of the game and we were on a show earlier where Eddie was talking about like the press conference, what the press was trying to get away from and trying to get out of Ten Hag. But in reality, with looking at this game from where we started to where we are now, that is like a huge improvement, wouldn't you say? You're muted.
Sorry, apologies. You wouldn't have look, beginning of the season, we wouldn't have expected to get to one final, let alone two. We're here now. As I keep saying, we've had a week. We've had a week to sit down, which has been beneficial for us. He's not going to go in there naive. I'm not sure that Pep is going to try and spring a surprise. But if he does, as Amanda was saying earlier on, Pep seems to overthink things in finals. Sorry, so maybe he'll overthink something again in this one. In regards to us playing the game, tactically, I'm more interested in who he plays because this is something that he would have thought about. Obviously, Anthony's out. Sancho has been playing on that side, but I know Amonde's got a theory of what needs to be played or what team needs to be played. So I'm really curious to see what he comes out with tomorrow. And whether go on.
Sorry, I was going to say with that as well, because obviously Phil just said about Waghorse. You think Waghorse might start tomorrow as well, because obviously of the injury we've got and stuff like that as well. Could you see sort of? I could see it, but could you see that as well?
I don't want Waghorse to start. He's not a goal threat, but I'm not a manager, so I just want bullets on the pitch, and Weghorst isn't a bullet in my account. You've got a forward who doesn't want to score, who can't score. Why is he playing? You know, that's the part of it that I want to see. Is he going to go out there to hold? You know, for the first time, we're Man United, for God's sake. I know. You know, if he goes out there naive, then we're going to get our arse handed to us on a plate. I understand that. But at some stage, we need to be able to get players their side of the pitch, whether it is the long ball over the top to Rashford that has been pre-planned, you know, or whatever. But I just don't think we can go there and sit down and defend. I just don't think we can go there and sit down and defend and hope to get a chance.
Yeah, again, with that as well, it's like Waghorse doesn't score that many goals, Phil, but at the same time, it seems like if Martial's injured, he's a go-to man for Ten Hag to play. Now, like what the guys are saying, and you will agree as well. I think how many goals he scored? He's only scored about 2 goals, hasn't he?
2.
Or is it 2? Yeah, I think something like that he scored. Yeah.
One in the Europa League and one in the League Cup. Look,
Yeah,
he's not good enough to play for Manchester United. That is an absolute fact, right? And that is undeniable. He's playing for Manchester United because Eric Ten Hag wasn't given any money in January, and United are the only team that didn't spend in January that will qualify for Europe. He's a million miles away from being good enough. And it really is an unbelievable indictment on the football club that Ten Hag has had to play a guy that can't score in the league that he was signed to play in because he isn't good enough. I mean, it was illustrated in the last minute at the weekend and with a no pressure moment, tap it in, and he still missed. But if you look at him in the World Cup against Argentina, come off the bench, scores 2. It's a one-off game. And so Fred Weghorst will never be here again. He'll never be in a cup final again. For him, if I was him, I'm one of the players going out on the pitch. To be fair, he gives everything. Not good enough. But players like him have to snatch this moment because they'll never be back here. And if Ten Hag had Martial was fit, I would never say start Fred Weghorst But even before Martial get injured, if you're not planning a strategy that includes the potential of Martial getting injured either before the game or during the game, then I think that would be very neglectful of Ten Hag. So I think Ten Hag will probably take this into account that this is a potential. And of course, this won't be the situation next season, but it's the situation we're in right now. And I think it's going to be really hot tomorrow. And that's where Garnacho comes in last 20 minutes, when the game's stretched. If you start Garnacho, you don't have anything on the bench to change the game. And I think if you look at Garnacho's efficacy, it's always last 20 minutes in games. I mean, even you look at United City at Old Trafford when they won, comes on, starts running at people, tired defenders that make mistakes, that bring you down for penalties, that mentally switch off, and he's very good at exploiting that. So I think that's why he'll start with the front three. I wish he didn't have to start Weghorst, but I think he will.
Yeah, I think again with that, I think Omondi might agree as well. I think if you probably put Rashford up top, you take something away from Rashford's game.
No, I think it's perfect. I think I would be playing Rashford down the middle. I wouldn't start with Weghorst. So I think on a big Wembley pitch like that, we need to.
Who would you play on the left on Monday?
Hey.
Oh, Mr. B's going to move forward for this one.
who would you play on the left instead of Rashford? Because I thought about Rashford playing down the middle too, but who would you play on the left?
Well, I think with the personnel we've got, we know Anthony's out, and usually on the left we've got Rashford, we've got Garnacho. I don't think you can start Garnacho. I agree with you there. He's better coming off the bench because we need to be defensively sound. I don't think Garnacho's experienced enough. He doesn't start many games to be defensively sound against a Man City side.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Which we say, oh no, we don't want to sit there and defend. Sometimes in the games like this, you're forced to defend. You have to be organised, and when I say compact and narrow, that's to prevent them from creating space to open us up. That's the last thing we want to do. We can't allow them, the team that will have 70% of possession, to go 1-0, 2-0 up from us being naive. We have to start the game being compact, and that means dropping a winger. I don't care, what we say. We need to drop a winger and bring a midfielder in there. We've got Bruno could play off the left or play off the right, and maybe Sancho at most. But we need to put players like Eriksen, Casemiro, Bruno, Tommy, and Fred in there because here's why.
Jesus Christ!
These guys. If he's on the bench, if Jesus Christ is there, play him. The reason why is because we have to prevent them from going to 3-0. We start the game at 0-0. The most important thing is deny them. I refer back to Inter Milan against the great Pep side of Barcelona. They had a game plan, which, it worked at the end of the day. They beat them in transition. Milito scored a goal. It was 1-0, whatever it was. They knocked them out. And it's the same applies. We can't go there thinking it's fairy tale stuff, FA Cup final where we play Roy the Rovers football. We need to go there with a game plan, which the manager has been doing, and deny them the ability to open us up. And once we do that, we will create chances. Who creates more chances than us? It's just that we don't finish our dinner. We're so good. Look at the Arsenal game, 3-1 at Old Trafford. Transitions, open them up against Arsenal side that plays similar with possession football. Look at the way we beat them 2-1. After we lost 6-3, he went and done his homework, and we came back and beat them. But
on Monday, this is like a boxer that has no knockout punch. They have no knockout punch to get hurt. Think about this. To get your opponent off you, you have to have power that your opponent respects. Right?
Thank you.
So if you don't do that, then they will keep coming forward. And this is part of the problem with United, is that they don't have that knockout punch. They have great flurries, they have great feet, but they don't have enough power to keep their opponent off them. That's when they need to score, to put it in boxing terms, and they end up fighting somebody else's fight because of this. So this is what United can't do tomorrow, is they can't miss 5, 6, 7 chances. So there has to be, a ruthlessness about them that they haven't had, and so I just don't know where that comes from, and I hope it comes tomorrow.
Mr. B, you appreciate having Phil on, so carry on with that, because you're literally praising Phil there.
I've heard Omondi, the team that Omondi wants to put out, and I'm not having it. I like the fact that Phil is talking about they have to have something that they fear from us, and that's why I would be starting Garnacho, to be honest, because I think that the pace that he has, 2 players with that kind of pace Carl Walker's going to play, but he can only cover one of those players. And that's more why I would be playing up. He's had a week to sit down and instruct these players. It's going to be about positions and setting up patterns of play. He knows how Man City are going to play to a certain extent. I would expect there to be a lot of maybe defensive work, but strategies where certain players will be free at certain times. And those are the players that you have to find in certain patterns of play. Yeah, we understand Man City are going to dominate the ball. That's what they do. I have no problem with that. I don't expect Manchester United to go toe-to-toe with them, but I do expect them to have systems in place and patterns of play where they can open up Man City at certain stages of the game. And that's what I expect. And if you're playing with the McTominays and the Freds OMONDI in the same team, not one, and you swap him for somebody else, we've got no chance because oh God, I'm gonna lose my mind here. Because technically, my opinion, I don't think they're good enough. Fred, granted, he played a great through ball the other day. Yeah. Fantastic for Fred. But McTominay wasn't on the pitch with him. That is the part that I worry about we have to
look at the personnel that we've got, and we have to look at who can be trusted to perform and do the duties. Listen, we have to manage certain situations of the game. There's going to be certain situations of the game, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, where we'll be under it, and we have to be organised, switched on mentally, communicating, knowing where each other has to be. And that's what we've done on the training pitch this week. So I want players who are efficient in that way, who can follow instruction. Tommy can do that. I think Fred done a decent job in the 2-1 on De Bruyne, sort of sitting around him, buzzing around him. We need to utilise these players, and then we can bring on, if we can go into the second half, 0-0 or 70 minutes at 0-0, which is really important, then we can bring on the Garnachos and the Sanchos and then try to a little something. But the last thing I want to do is go 1-0 down and then they're having 70% of the possession and then we were struggling to create any chances because it's all about mentality. We're in the game. When it's 0-0, you feel you're in the game. Remember Everton, Man United, 1985? They were a fantastic team. We went down to 10 men, goddammit, when Pete Willis sent off Kevin Moran. And Frank Stapleton went to centre back, and they were communicating with McGrath. They organised it against this great Everton side, and we managed to get a goal in extra time through Norman Whiteside. So there are sort of parallels there with what we were up against then and what we're up against tomorrow. It can be done, but the main thing is we kept a clean sheet. And if you start losing, conceding goals, it's going to be harder and harder, especially against Pep, who can adapt in game and make things more difficult for us. It's like the old Italian sides from the 80s. 1-0 up, game over. 5 minutes to score the first goal, it's game over. They can just lock it down. They can make an adjustment and suffocate you. I don't want to go down against City tomorrow. I want us to be in the game as long as possible. And that means being responsible and having a team set up in certain phases of the game to be able to control certain phases of the game. If you're on the back foot, be in control on the back foot and breathe and relax with it and know what you're doing.
Brilliant, thank you. Anything you want to add to that, Phil, or do you want me?
I think there's two ways of looking at that. I can understand what OMONDI's saying, but then there's another way of saying, why wait to the 70th minute to have your strongest team on the pitch? You know, why don't we go out and try to win it from the first? Why don't you go out and try to win it by the start of the whistle? You start with your strongest team, and maybe by the 70th minute you're 2-0 up, and then you can make two different changes. But if you're sitting there, I mean, United were 1-0 down against them at Old Trafford. You come back and 1-2-1.
True.
I don't know if you should start a game afraid of them and trying to adapt your tactic to negate their strengths rather than saying, look, let them have something to worry about too. Because if you do that with City, they will eventually pick you off. So I think there has to be a threat for them to worry about. If we are reckless, if we attack too much, we're going to get punished. So I believe you start with your strongest team and you try to win the game. Who knows what can happen? City could have a player sent off after 10 minutes. Erling Haaland could get injured. You've got your strongest team in the pitch. The whole pattern of the game changes, or reverse could happen. You know, to me, I want my strongest team on the pitch for the longest amount of time, not for the last 20 minutes, for 70 minutes, because that increases the probability for me. If United lose the game and they have the strongest team on the pitch, then you have to accept that. But if they're 2-0 down with 20 minutes to go and then they bring on players that can hurt you, to me, I think, why didn't we start that way? So, but I understand what I'm saying, and I get that. They'll have to remain tactically disciplined, but to me, I think United should start with the strongest team.
And you make some valid point there, and again,
sorry,
with it,
what would that strongest team be? Because obviously Solo's got a team up that we'll put up while you're discussing what your strongest team is, just to see kind of what you would have. What would your strongest team be, Phil?
Yeah, it's a good question. And one point that Monday brought up that I thought was really important, I can't remember what game it was. I was trying to remember. I think it might have been Leicester at home, where Garnacho got hooked at halftime at Old Trafford because he wasn't defensively responsible. And United were getting picked apart down the right-hand side. I think it was Leicester. It was Leicester. I think Tate was running United ragged. They had about 5 or 6 chances in the first half that they should have buried. United ended up winning that game 3-0, most in the second half. So there is a risk with Garnacho that you can get exposed because he isn't disciplined. I remember when Mourinho took over United and he had Rashford sitting really, really deep as a away player because of the same problem of United getting exposed, getting overlapped on the fullbacks. So I think it all depends on what you want to do. The thing is that the forward line is probably the area that he has the least amount of options in. So I think the back four, for me, Wan-Bissaka starts because United are going to be under attack. Wan-Bissaka, for me, has more outstanding attributes than Diogo Dalot. I know what Wan-Bissaka is good at. Diogo Dalot is not outstanding in anything. He's good at some things, poor at others. Wan-Bissaka is outstanding at one thing, not great at the other. I'd rather have something I know that I can trust in Wan-Bissaka. The centre-backs are going to be Lindelof, and for me, on the left, Varane on the right, Shaw on the left. The midfield will probably be Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes, and probably Fred. I don't think Eriksen will start because I think United will need more energy in there, and I think Eriksen's very good against teams where you dominate the ball. United won't dominate the ball in this game. He doesn't track back exceptionally well. So Bruno Fernandes plays really high, so I think they'll play Fred in there with Casemiro. In the front three, Jadon Sancho's been in good form recently. I think he'll start. Marcus Rashford, and the only one I'm not sure about. I think if it's you're talking about your strongest team attacking, then Garnacho starts ahead, obviously, of Weghorst. But in a game where United are not going to dominate possession, where they're going to need, Weghorst not on there for a goal threat, more to create space for Rashford to run in behind, where he can see United blocking long balls. I think that's why he will start. He's obviously not good enough, but that's what I can see Ten Hag doing.
Right, Phil, this is my solo 11, so I went with De Gea. The back four was the same as yours.
Yeah.
I went with
you started McTominay?
Yes.
Explain.
The reason I said I'll start with Scott is obviously I was about the whole marking situation with De Bruyne. Also with him as well, he's a physical player within that team as well. So he'll go around and he'll be kicking lumps out of most of the Man City players as well. Because what it is, need to unsettle them. You need someone to unsettle them. It's almost like when you look at Ferguson, what Ferguson used to do when he used to put like Fletcher out to man mark, Jusok Park to man mark, like individual players, and literally give them a kick. So to unsteady that key player. So that's why I went with him. And then I went with Sancho, Garnacho, Bruno, and then Rashford up front.
I think McTominay gives you height on set pieces, so I could see him being someone you had to bring on in the game if they're behind, or if they're trying to defend the lead. The problem for me with McTominay is that, and I've watched him do this a number of times, is his movement is really, really poor when you're transitioning out of defence. And so when defence are looking to connect with the midfield, he's very, very static. He takes up really poor positions. He's physical, of course. He hasn't played much the last few weeks. I think he survives because, like I said, he gives United height on set pieces. United have been poor on set pieces. You saw it against Bournemouth the weekend where they scored at the near post. I don't think City, obviously Holland has height, but outside of that, I don't think they're huge. So I think I just think all things being equal, I would be surprised if he didn't start Fred.
And I dropped Fred, but I love him, but sometimes I've got to do it. On Monday, what do you think as well?
It's all about the system, isn't it? About how they play. This is the formation that we start with, but in different phases of play, it looks different, doesn't it? I mean, we get sometimes we're playing it out. We've got a back three. We've got one of the fullbacks pushed on or pushed into midfield to make another number there. We've got when we're attacking, when we've got them in the final third, we've sort of got like a rest defense. So it'll be 2 and 3. And then we've got 5 across their defensive line. So it changes. It chops and changes. As long as the guys are listen to instructions and know where they should be at the right time, I'm okay with that. Regarding personnel, I wouldn't start with Garnacho. I've said that already. I'd put someone like, I know it sounds stupid, but someone like Fred in there, or because they can rotate. And you got McTominay in. I think that's okay. Eriksen needs to play. So I'd swap Garnacho for Eriksen. Put Eriksen where McTominay is, and just maybe just mix it up a little bit, because we're not going to be in that shape for 90 minutes, are we? When they've got the ball and we're sitting back, we're going to have to drop off and sort of go with our runners, or sort of deny them the space to play their football. I think Sancho, I had my head turned now. He has played well. He does retain the ball really well. So I think when we're under pressure, when they've got their possession and we do manage to sort of transition, I think he's someone who can retain it well and keep the ball for us. This is why I want Eriksen in the side as well. I know there's limitations. We have to sort of have a bit of balance here with our discussions. But what Eriksen does really well is dictate the play. So I think there'll be spells where we can get a little 5-minute breather where he can keep hold of the ball and recycle it and start again. And I think that's really important, having a footballer like him in the side, because no one else can replicate what he does. Whereas, say, Fred and McTominay, we might give him the ball, and seconds later, Pep's team are pinching it off them again. And that's really despair when you're struggling really hard and concentrating so well, and suddenly the ball's been turned over just like that. So I think Eriksen has to play. I think Garnacho should come off the bench. I give Sancho a bye. I would start him, and I would definitely put Rashford up top, because keep him away from that guy Walker, because as the saying goes, you never beat Kyle Walker, and he's just, what I saw the other day against Real Madrid, he's just immense with his pace. So I think the way we can open them up, as we did in the 2-1, guys, go and check out the 2-1. That's what I did for my own work. I checked out the 2-1 win. What they did against us at 6-3 was horrendous. They moved us all over the place, but we had a game plan in the 2-1. I know we went a goal down, but we were still had enough to really hurt them. And there were so many opportunities. I mean, Bruno nearly scored early, hit it wide. We're getting into good opportunities. But when we do pinch the ball, we got runners, and I've seen hard runners like Bruno, like McTominay, and even like the fullbacks getting up. I think it's really important that we do that. And so I can see it's a system that's really important here, and the personnel, I would just edge Garnacho out. But I like your side there, Sola. I just think it's a bit too adventurous for my liking.
Mr. B? Oh, Phil? Did you want to?
Mate, the only thing I'm going to say is I could see in this formation Sancho and Bruno interchanging, because most of Sancho's goals have come from central areas. Again, he scored at the weekend, central area. But whoever heads up the centre of that midfield, the attacking midfield, has to do a huge defensive job too, because Gundogan is the guy that sets a tempo for City. Everything goes through him. And if you leave him in acres of space, you can't win the game of football. So whoever plays at the top of that diamond in that midfield is going to have to be defensively disciplined. This is why I don't think they'll play Eriksen, because I think that typically Eriksen plays in that position, and I don't think he's the best at tracking back. I think he's exceptional going forward, picking passes that you need. But tracking back, 32, he's coming 32. I'm not sure. I know Gundogan's 32, but different type of position, and he's playing in a deeper role. So I think, though, Bruno and Sancho will probably interchange a bit, but one of them is going to have to be really, really disciplined in how they press Gundogan, because if he's given space to dictate tempo, they're going to find it very difficult.
Mr. B, final thoughts before we get this down and go to some of the comments because there's plenty.
No, I've heard of Monday's nonsense. I will accept.
He talked you up before the show. He said you were amazing footballer. The whole time.
I just can't accept that Fred and McTominay are both going to be starting in the game. On Monday, you spoke about Eriksen playing, and then in the same sentence, you spoke about tracking back. I'm curious to see what he puts out, and if he puts out the team that you say and we win, I will be in disbelief. I'm not going to say I'm going to forfeit. I'm not going to say I'm going to bet, because I want us to win the game. And if it means that they go defensive, like you said, with those non-footballing players playing, and we win the game, I will accept it. I have a style of play in my mind that I want us to play, or the players on the pitch that I want to cause the damage. Now, if I'm wrong and we win, no problem. But if he starts this and we lose, I'm coming for you.
I believe him too.
I believe him as well.
All right.
Brilliant.
Comments. Have a look.
Go through some of the comments.
I want to
please.
say hello to Henrietta. How you doing,
Hello.
Henrietta?
Hello.
Lovely
Welcome.
to see you on the Man United agenda. Give her a wave, guys.
Brilliant.
She's saying Eriksen has covered the third most ground over 90 minutes this season.
That's interesting.
Food for thought,
Oh.
guys. Food for thought.
Very
Anyway,
interesting.
let's go for some comments. Ola Kunle says, I expect Man United to win this 4-0.
Oh, 007. Shit,
Yeah,
where you
Liverpool
been?
fan. Our Liverpool
The
fan.
Liverpool fan is winding us up. We want us to bite on that one. But I hope you're doing well, Ola Kunle. Lovely to see you. Across the pond, how you doing all the way from the States? Saying, hard to cheer for either, but with so many Man U fans like Omondi were cheering for Arsenal to lose to City, as well as Monday. So I guess just desserts would be City getting the treble. Oh, thanks a lot. Lucky Singh, how you doing? He says, Alvarez, Mahrez, Haaland, Phil Foden will play in different areas of the pitch. Big G is saying, let's hope Fred doesn't play tomorrow. What do you think, Solo? That's a little dig at you, Solo. Big T is saying, yes, more calls for Weghorst. I'm loving it, because I know Phil was bigging up Weghorst, wanting him in his lineup. It's crossed upon saying, what's your lineup going to be? We've just gone through that. Anthony Herbert, how you doing? Arsenal fan. Maguire's better play for England, he's saying, not for Man United. Bath Time's in the house as well. How you doing, Bath Time? Let's go through the comments here. Big T is saying here, don't forget their clean air zone charges if you're driving down. Oh gosh,
Yeah,
so much expense.
yeah, there is.
Lucky Singer saying Guardiola should plan for Ten Hag as well. There you go. Barton saying, I'm confused. Why should we be narrow and compact? What does that mean? You know exactly what it means. To deny space for Manchester City to rotate us around. Don't test me. Big T saying here, if we sit back and allow them to come on to us, would that shock Ten Hag? If City sit back and allow them us to come on to them, would that shock Ten Hag? Interesting that. Weghorst probably plays if Weghorst plays, it's probably to try and get Rodri off the ball, as Rashford and Bruno aren't great at that. That's from Bath Time with Vaughan. Man United is in the house. Glory, Man United. He's also saying Weghorst to score tomorrow's winner. Bath Time again saying, how do you think Rashford at left wing gets on against Walker? That'd be a race, wouldn't it? It'd be like the Olympics. Big G saying here, do you think Erik ten Hag might play a false 9 tomorrow? A false number 9, I mean Weghorst doesn't score goals. Lucky Singh saying here,
Definitely a false name.
we're looking to play counter-attack football, says Lucky Singh. Across the pond is saying here, Arsenal owned you. VAR won the match for you at Old Trafford. Yeah. It's still bitter because they bottled it. Bath Time is saying here, yeah, Mr. B is correct. Against Newcastle in our other final, we went out all attack and didn't play a low block for 90 minutes, protecting the centre. So good observations there from Bath Times. And he's also saying here, and we certainly didn't rely on transitions against Newcastle either. That was in the cup final, which we won. Big G saying here, their centre-backs are too good and physical to play an out-and-out number 9, so I'd definitely play a false 9, Bruno or Sancho, and try to beat them with movement. Plus, it's like having an extra man in midfield. Really good comments here from the guys, you know. Gives us some food for thought. Big T saying McTominay has got a Scholes rocket goal in him as well. Barstow saying, I bet Phil was livid at the new camp in 99, staying in the game and winning it late with subs. He's 100% right, though. He agrees with you. Barstow does there, Phil. And he's also saying here, was Garnacho realistically going to get anything out of Walker. I'm always picking Bath Times comments. I don't know why they've been targeted, but I'll go with this. Oh my God, Solo, you've got 3 of our least hard-working players on the pitch against a team that averages 65% possession. So he's disrespecting your Solo 11 a little bit there. This is a team from Big G. You can look at here: Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Maguire, Shaw, Casemiro, Fred, Rashford, Ericsson, Sancho.
He's on the
Bruno.
wind-up, isn't he, with Maguire, isn't he?
Mate, never do this show in front of a live audience. These boys are so brilliant. Jesus Christ. Is there any of our listeners that actually like us?
Can we say hi to Red Devil Studio and go subscribe to his channel? He said if Garnacho starts, we don't have to bench option, and he usually he doesn't usually start well. Obviously, we heard the news. You announced it earlier. Flying Pig, part of the community, got a great channel. He's had a death in the family. His mum. So condolences from everyone on the Man United agenda. You, Flying Pig. We're thinking about you, guy. And after saying, surely you mean Rodri, Phil, when you're referring to Gundogan being the guy.
No, everything goes through Gundogan. Gundogan's their type of setter.
And Red Del Studio is saying, I think Ten Hag will play Bruno on the right. Also, McTominay has barely played, so I expect Fred will start with Ericsson in the number 10 role as well. There's so many comments here. We're coming to an end of them now, but keep them coming, guys. Appreciate you all.
Thank you all, guys, for all the comments as well. Now we're going to move into a topic which is still a heated debate regarding the takeover at Manchester United as well. And we're just going to get a few insight from the guys. I've not done anything on the show regarding it as well, so it's going to be my first time really doing it as well. So obviously the Man United takeover transfer window is coming up. Phil, we're linked with so many players at the moment, and we ain't got a clue even if we've got any money to spend on these players. But apparently we signed, is it the Napoli centre-back we signed? Yeah.
Has he signed? I've no.
Apparently we're getting him, or it's going to be a deal that's going to be done, apparently, according to everyone. And then we also got Mason Mount as well. So I want to know where all this money is coming from, because transfer window's not open yet. We haven't been taken over from anyone at the moment, and we still don't know what's going on with the takeover. And do you think the takeover will affect us in the long term for this transfer window as well?
So I mean, look, I didn't know anything. I knew you know obviously the rumors about Kim Min-jae. I didn't know he was actually signed, and I'd be surprised if he is. United are obviously. They obviously have to recruit this summer, no matter what happens. I know a lot of people are saying that they don't want to announce anything before the cup final due to protests. I don't think that's true, because I don't think they would really care if there was protests at Wembley. I think they'd care if there was protests at Old Trafford, but not at Wembley, and I don't think there would be anyway. If anything, it would be more Ten Hag who would have said, don't announce anything if he had that power to do that before a cup final, so that there's not a distraction. I think Marcus Rashford won't sign a new contract until there's some clarity over that. I know people inside the football club haven't had that clarity as to what's going to happen. My gut says they'll go with Jim Ratcliffe. The one thing the Glazers can't do is nothing, because the football club is in a seriously unhealthy financial state. I'm pretty sure they'd easily secure financing for signings this summer, given that they wouldn't even be paying them for a while anyway. Whoever they sign, I mean, if it's in the process of being taken over, I'm quite sure the banks would have no problems giving United 200 million and letting them do that. But United's recruitment team have been quite active over the last week or two, which they should be. I mean, they should be having discussions with players and agents, and regardless of what's going on. When it comes to writing checks, that's a whole different thing altogether. I don't think Ten Hag knows what his budget is. How could he? There's lots of other aspects of the football club that were like even booking the tour. They're not sure what their budget is. They've got tremendous uncertainty surrounding the staff inside the football club. But the one thing about Ten Hag that I think that United are well aware of is this isn't the guy that's going to come out in the press and say he's happy with his squad when he's clearly not. This is the guy that's going to put enormous pressure on the people above him to deliver, because he holds everyone to the highest standards, including himself. So I think United have to be very, very careful with someone like him, because obviously what goes on inside the football club is very different to what they talk about publicly. And I think with Ten Hag, he's not a guy that's going to sacrifice his reputation for the ineptitude of others. So, he hasn't really had a proper window. First window we had was a mess. Up until Brentford, he'd had 3 signings: 12 Malacia, 12 million, Martinez at 55 million, and a free transfer in Christian Eriksen. Then the United panicked after Brentford. No execution of a strategy. January, no execution of a strategy, and this summer, Ten Hag won't let them do that. They obviously like Mason Mount, Rasmus Højlund. He signed with Ten Hag's agent. United like him as a second striker, not as the main striker. I think he'd be available. This is covered in actually Talk of the Devils. Laurie Whitwell actually talks about this too, so I want to give credit where it's due. I do believe that Glazers already know what they're going to do in terms of who they're going to choose. There may not be a preferred bidder status, but probably I think they'll end up going with Jim Ratcliffe's bid, simply because with the Qatari bid, there's not a lot of clarity. No one's ever actually met Sheikh Jassim Al Thani, not even Rain. They've never even spoken to a Sheikh Jassim Al Thani. And so there's concern about the authenticity of that bid. There's concern about who is fronting it and how long of a red tape process it would take to get the front man through. These things matter, because if it's a long drawn out process, the Glazers will have to continue to fund the football club during that process, and Jim Ratcliffe isn't going to be there if it all falls through. So I think they've used that Qatari bid to get Jim Ratcliffe the up his bid, which is smart. But I think most likely after the cup final, there'll be an announcement, because the Glazers can't continue to do nothing. Like the football club's hemorrhaging cash badly. It's an enormous debt. It needs tremendous investment in the infrastructure, and that money has to come from somewhere. I don't see it coming from partial investment. There's nothing to invest in. So I would imagine after the cup final, you'll see an announcement probably in a week or so after that. But with Ten Hag, he has to be supported throughout the summer transfer window, and he wants to move quick. He likes Mason Mount. We saw Mason Mount play for Vitesse Arnhem against Ajax when Mason Mount was on loan. He's liked them from then. So it's not just because of an advantageous situation with his contract. It's because he genuinely likes him. United need a player that can play beside Casemiro. I think once Casemiro gets a quality player beside him, in the same way that when Varane got Martinez, he'll stop getting exposed. The yellow cards will drop. I mean, there's a reason why he wasn't getting yellow cards at Real Madrid. He was playing beside Tchouaméni, he was playing beside Camavinga, he was playing beside Toni Kroos, he was playing beside Modric. He wasn't constantly getting exposed. Once he plays with better players, then I think you'll see a lot of that so-called indiscipline disappear. And obviously they wanted Alexis McAllister, but United couldn't move for Alexis McAllister 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. So that tells me something has happened, and still the fact Alexis McAllister chose Liverpool over United despite not qualifying for the Champions League was a consequence of United being hamstrung by this process. I think something has changed internally.
Oh wow! I know you're saying about the Radcliffe guys. If you want to ask Phil questions, go now. We'll go to you guys as well. But the process of how it works, Phil, for me, I'm still can't get my brain around it. So Radcliffe comes in, take over Manchester United, give the Glazers so much billions, and I think he gets like, is it 51% he gets or something like that? Yeah. Now, with him owning Man United, 51% as the majority holder, and then you've got sort of like the 49% now. I think the Glazers, the family, they don't own that much, do they? I think they own like 20-something% or something like that. 23%.
Well, Joel and Avram own 23%. The rest is an amalgamation of the siblings. There are the other 4 siblings, and of course, independent shareholders on the stock market.
Yeah. So my question would be then is, ineffectively, Radcliffe will be the one who is funding the transfer to Manchester United, and the Glazers will be getting X amount of money still to be staying at Manchester United. So as a business sense, how I don't understand how that makes any sense with business.
The way it would work is when he acquires the football club, Joel and Avram wouldn't get paid at all. The other four siblings would. They would agree a price on selling those shares within 3 years, a base price. That could increase. And this is what people have to understand. I mean, even if the Qataris buy it 100% outright, the Glazers are getting paid no matter what. They get paid today or they get paid in 3 years, but they're getting paid. Now, at a minority shareholding rate, which they would be about the percentage they held in 2003-4, they'd be impotent in terms of shaping the financial structure of the football club, the culture of the football club, the values, everything else. They would just be equity shareholders like everyone else. So eventually they get bought out, and I assume that they would feel that would be at a higher price 3 years from now. So for Jim Ratcliffe, owning 51% of United, he would have complete control of every decision the football club makes. So the Glazers, as a shareholder, will get a share of future revenues, and then of course, whatever their stocks are appraised at 3 years from now when they get bought out. So, so they'd have to buy the other four siblings, but this is of course why they can't get partial investment, because at the moment those other four siblings can cash out at around $1 billion. Well, if you go to and they want to sell, Joel and Avram don't. If you go to those four siblings and say, "Well, accept partial investment," well, why would they accept partial investment and dilute the equity in Manchester United? Give that to someone else and take 100, 200 million. It just makes no sense. So for them, they'd rather sell. The other four siblings would rather sell 100%. The bylaws of Manchester United means that none of the six can sell without the consent of the other five. So the other four siblings, the whole structure of the football club will have to change, but that's what Jim is doing. He's buying out the four siblings. The stock market would still remain the same. So the Glazers have been selling piecemeal parts of United for years. But again, they're Class A non-voting rights shares, so they have no ability to affect anything in the direction of the football club. So, where it makes sense for the Glazers is they retain, a financial interest in an asset that will most likely appreciate in value over the next 3 to 5 years. So their stock price, those stocks values will go up, and they'll continue to get a share of the revenues as all stockholders will profit. Of course, they won't get dividends like they take right now. It'll be an annual payout in the same way all shareholders get paid. But I mean, that's where it makes sense for them.
Yeah. Oh wow, Phil. Listen, it's always nice having you on when you spill sort of, that information you give, because as I said, it's almost like I was trying to get my head around how it would work, but listening to you, I sort of understand now how it works with it. Again, for me, I just want the best owner for Manchester United. I was going to ask another question about, obviously, rumours. We're not sure how it is, because some of it's paper talk, some of it could be change in interpretation and dialogue and stuff like that. But it's like the Nice, because I've heard lately, like Nice players and also fans now protesting want Sir Jim Ratcliffe out of the club as well. I don't know if you know about that or how true that would be as well, because again, it's stories that circulating.
I think the expectation with Nice was that they were going to be another PSG, and that's what their fans expected when Jim Ratcliffe took over. One of the things that would cause me major concerns about Jim Ratcliffe and how they run the football club. There was an incident with Christophe Galtier, who is the PSG manager right now, and an article, one of his ex-employees, released some emails that Christophe Galtier allegedly sent, which were virulently racist and detailed, really despicable views about Christophe Galtier. The individual who released these said that he had notified Nice directors, which were Ineos directors, about this when Galtier was there. And to be honest, they look pretty legitimate because they've been backed up by players and other staff members that have said, yes, he is, a flagrant racist, bigot. It would concern me that Jim Ratcliffe's team did nothing about that. Why are we finding out about this 9 months later at PSG? He should have been sacked on the spot and never allowed near a football club again. I mean, he's at a football club that's owned by Qataris. One of the targets of his racism was Muslim players, and they're fasting for Ramadan. And of course, he's saying that too many Muslim players, and had some pretty deplorable views about some black players, which is absolutely vile to me. That would concern me about their oversight. Something so simple. Why aren't you doing something about that? Why are we finding out about this now? I think it's a terrible indictment on them. And they're not perfect. We need to really understand what's behind Jim Ratcliffe's bid in terms of, the debt that he still wants to hold, who's responsible for that debt, how's it going to be serviced. There's a lot of questions that need answered by both bids. Neither, if you look at the PSG fans with Qataris, they're not exactly thrilled either. So United just need someone to run the club commensurate with its values and invest in the football club with its values, rather than someone that wants to come in and use it as a vanity project.
Yeah. OMONDI, I don't know if
yeah,
you want to go
can I
through
just
some of the
shout
comments.
this out? Phil, what do you think of this? Bath Time saying, breaking news, lads. He's saying the 6 Glazer siblings could retain stakes in Manchester United if a proposed phased takeover of the football club by Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Goes on to say, who is seeking a way through the share structure and family dynamics, which have been complicating the deal. And this has come from the Financial Times.
Yeah, I'd have to read. I'd have to read more into that. The end of the day, the Glazers will do what they've always done and what's in their best financial interests. That's it. That's the only motivating factor for every decision at the football club, is what benefits them financially, not what benefits United. So if they feel like that is in their financial interest to do that, then that's what they'll do. So I would have to see exactly how that was distributed, what percentage they'd own. Would it still be 20% owned across all 6 siblings? I'd have to read about that a little bit more. I'm not sure.
Just to add to that as well, so saying here, Ratcliffe flew to New York for talks last month, is seeking to acquire at least enough B shares to hand him control of the club in an offer that is not expected to be extended to common shareholder.
Yeah, that's correct. So basically what that would mean is the shareholders that United was floated on the New York Stock Exchange, which are Class A non-voting rights shares, they would remain in place. Buying up the Class B shares, which are essentially voting rights shares, would give Jim Ratcliffe complete control of United. And so what will probably happen is the equity owned by the Glazer siblings would be distributed equally across them. So let's say it was supposedly 23% with Avril and Joel. That 23% will now be spread across each of them. I'd have to see the actual details of this, but Jim Ratcliffe is not going to do any deal with the Glazers where he doesn't have majority control of the football club.
Just look, I'm not very good about the finance and understanding the business side of things, but most fans, what they really want to know, because it's been dragging on a long time, Phil, but what most fans really want to know and have clarity about is, when are they leaving the club? When the club's going to be sold? And when can we start making changes for the future? Because we don't want to leave it for another season to say, okay, we're halfway through this next season and nothing's been done. We have to wait for the January transfer window, for example. We want deals done now. We want to see the training ground develop now. We want to see progress and plans about the stadium now, because we've waited long enough as a fan base. So you can understand the frustration there. What do you think is likely to happen? I mean, you're not a betting man, I'm sure, but where would you? How would you appease fans right now who are sort of chomping at the bit?
It's hard for me to say anything that you could treat with any high degree of confidence that would appease people, but you need to look at the logic of this. This can't go on in perpetuity. I mean, it's extremely disruptive for the people behind the scenes at the football club in senior positions, because these are people that can't do their jobs properly. So the football club is sort of in limbo right now. This is not good for sponsors. This is not good for partners. This is not good for players. This is not good for, for anyone at the football club. It's not an environment that Eric Ten Hag can be successful in. So they have to be very careful about letting this drag on way too long, because they'll start to lose key personnel that will start looking after their jobs, looking after their families. Most people who work for United are not independently wealthy, but they're exceptionally wealthy.
Oops, I reckon could be he's on his phone. I think. Oh, he's back here.
Sorry, mate, yeah. I think what will happen is this is going to. I mean, Rain also want to get paid. It's risky for the Glazers to drag this out, because if one of these bidders pulls out, and both of them are key to making sure the other one keeps their bid at a certain level, they may never get this opportunity again. So I think one way or another, we're going to have clarity after the cup final.
Oh, good.
Yes. He's talking. Botham is saying about posting it, but I'll put yes on it. So yes, it's going yes for everything. But I don't think everyone's going to be able to read it, because we are actually out of time now as well, because it's still quite early in the afternoon for you, Phil, isn't it? And
yes, man. That was actually my son calling me to see if I'm coming to pick him up at school. So I'm actually just about to leave and go get him.
Brilliant. So, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure today
Thanks,
having
lads.
Phil back on. Phil, where can everyone find you? Because you're around most places.
A policeman's asking me yet? I'm not sure I should answer that. No. At Malachines, MALACHIANS.
Thank you. And you can find him
Thanks,
on
lads.
YouTube, also on Twitter as well. But it's been a pleasure, Phil. I'll reach out to you at some point this week, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Phil.
Yeah,
Thank
big
you.
up, Phil. Thank
Have
you
a
so much,
wonderful
Phil.
weekend, boys. Take
You
care,
too,
boys.
Phil. Good luck. Yeah, free. I was going to say FA Cup. Here we come. So, guys, to summarize the show, what Phil's saying is obviously with the Qatar, they've never met the Sheikh before, and also you don't know where the bid's coming from within it as well. The whole thing with Bath Time just released just before the FA Cup as well. Final, the journalists who released it as well. What's the plans for tomorrow on the channel, boy? Okay, I think we'll give you a shout, Bath Time, with that. I think we will do a reaction show tomorrow as well on Monday. Mr. B, you're not doing a watch along, are you?
No, I've got a charity game in the morning, and I'm not going to be in any fit state to do any sort of watch along. To be fair,
okay, cool.
We've got a 2-hour game, so I'm not going to be
If the watch along, if the reaction show goes out, say about maybe 6:30.
Why are we discussing this now? We'll discuss
Bath
this.
Time's asking a question. Bath Time's asking a question.
Okay.
So I was saying, if it's about 6:30, a possibility I could do it on Monday.
Yeah, we're
Bath Time.
around here. I just want to say, there's been some fantastic comments today, and thanks, guys, because you guys certainly know your stuff more than me. I want to big up to Lewis. Is it Lucy? Lucis. I'm going for Lucis. Welcome to the channel. And I was watching your comments, thinking this man knows his stuff. So great stuff, bro. Thanks for the contributions, and Rebel as well. I know you cussing, but you're the one who really helped the channel this time with your insight into these affairs here. And obviously, Bath Time dropping some breaking news for us as well. Vincent, Man United, all you guys, Lucky Singh. Thanks everyone who's tuned in today.
Thank you, guys. And remember, guys, we will be back tomorrow. And I believe, Bath Time be too drunk and probably watching Love Island at the moment. And Vincent, big up as well, because I know you are going to be at the game tomorrow as well. So good luck with it as well. Safe journey down as well. And whoever is going to the game as well, massively safe journey as well, because of all these train strike and everything else. And Miss Monday, don't live too far from the motorway down as well. So you can always knock on his house as well. Invite you in for a cup of tea. But guys, from us on the main agenda, Alex as well. Big up Alex. As well.
Thanks, guys.
Big up. Guys, but from us on the main agenda, we just hope tomorrow we do sneak that win and we lift this trophy. That's all that matters to us.
Stop hoping. Stop. I'm sick of this hope. I'm sick of this.
We will win. We will win
you
tomorrow. We've got to win.
You.
We're going to win. We didn't even know our score prediction, but it doesn't matter anyway. We're going to win 1-0.
We know we're going to win.
We're going to win 1-0. But guys, from us on the Man Agenda, have a lovely rest of the evening, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.